Welcome to the Connecting Life podcast. I'm your host, Diana Boskma, and I'm here to help you connect the dots of life so that you can live your best life in a healthy and fulfilling way. Today, I'm talking with Rebecca Dumais, who is a good friend of mine. She's a professional life coach and overall just a really, really cool human being. So could you please tell us a little bit more about yourself, Rebecca?
Sure, Deanna. Oh my gosh, where to start? Yeah, I got into professional life coaching a little while ago, and I, well, let me start with, some stats, right? Um, so I am 62. Not gonna say I'm 63 yet because I've been doing that. I'm a mother of two beautiful grown children. Um, Light of my life. Uh, Spent a long time in New York City, which was really wonderful. Now I'm down in warm and sunny South Florida, and starting this new chapter of my life, right?
Yeah.
Kids are grown, and now it's like me. So it's really exciting, but also a little scary. It's exciting.
Yep, that makes total sense. Well, it's nice to have you with me today. So, Rebecca and I will have a conversation about addiction and neuro-spiciness. So, when you think about this topic, um, I think it's something that's fairly close to your heart in some ways.
Mm.
So, what's for you the thing that has in your life stood out? Well, let's start with the neurospicy part, because from there we will probably land into addiction, I think.
Yeah. So, I did not really um, realize I was neurospicy until I hit menopause, right?
Mm,
And even then, it took a really long time to land on, the fact that it was probably ADHD,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And funny enough, it was through Instagram that I figured that out. Um, I had to advocate for myself, right? Because
Yeah.
once I connected the dots, I was at that time being treated by a psychiatrist for anxiety,
Yeah.
and I, I had to figure out, a medication I could take with my
Mhm.
anxiety because I can't take um, any of the uh, what are they called? Ritalin, I think is one of them. They just really up my anxiety all that much more. So, I had to self advocate for myself. And then through that, I also discovered I'm more than likely on the spectrum. Now, none of these are official diagnoses, but, I for me, that doesn't matter,
Mhm.
if the shoe fits, wear it. And it
Well, yeah.
explains a lot, you
Mhm.
know.
Well, when I was younger, that was not something people would look into. The way it was where I'm come from, where I'm from, is that things like autism would not be diagnosed in someone who was of normal intelligence. It would only. That has changed in the meantime, but when I was young, when I
Mm,
was in school, that was just not a thing. And anybody who ended up in special education or with a label, they certainly had difficulty learning. So
mhm.
that's probably what played a part in other areas in the world as well, that people didn't get the diagnosis because they were normal, they could handle school and things like that. But it doesn't mean you could handle life, because that's a very different thing then.
Right.
Life can get
Yeah.
really difficult when you're, because I've also read that a lot of women find out in menopause that they have ADHD tendencies or actually get diagnosed. So it is a thing with the hormone change that things really change for women, I've realized.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. off the rails is
Yeah.
the term I would use. It
Okay.
was like, what the heck? But
Mm.
like again, I can say looking back, I was like, oh. And
Mm.
I think I don't know, I can only speak for myself. As a woman, I got really good at masking because we're expected.
Yes.
I and I was felt like I was always expected to show up in a certain way,
Yeah.
so I tried really hard to fit in that box.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it just really understanding that, this, I think they call it
Yeah.
AUDHD. I don't know.
ADHD is what they call it here.
Audio, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, really understanding, having that led le has led me to understand myself better,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and, therefore make the adjustments I needed to make in my
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle
Yeah.
to accommodate these things,
Yeah.
like long time, like way back. So I was seeing a psychiatrist when I separated from my ex because I really fell apart mentally.
Yeah.
And I brought up, I thought I might, at the time they called it Asperger's. And he was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh no. You um, but I knew, and that's another thing, it's like we have these professionals, which are great, but we also need to understand that,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we know, right?
Yeah.
We know our own selves. And
Mm-hmm.
I think, again, as a woman, we're taught, not to trust our own instincts, our own gut.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
these are things I'm learning now. And yeah, so it's been a journey.
Yeah. The thing is,
Yeah.
what you just mentioned about women are taught not to trust themselves, it's one of those really interesting things that most women are diagnosed much later because they know how to mask. Many are
Yeah.
not diagnosed until adulthood. And the other thing is that I've done some birth work in the past, and in birth work, it's also that women are then told, no, 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 no. Well, yes, 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 yes. Because then when the baby's born or when they're a week down the line, the baby is indeed ill or the baby has indeed. And mum knew because women's instincts are really spot on with that kind of stuff. So it's a shame that it's frequently not taken serious enough.
Yeah. No, it's interesting you bring that up because my daughter, I noticed one day her eyes were crossing, and I brought her to my pediatrician, and he was like, "Oh, you're just imagining things." And I'm like, "Fuck on, I'm not."
Hmm.
And I brought her to a pediatric ophthalmologist, and he was like, "Yep, I
Hmm.
definitely happening." And then she got the appropriate treatment she needed, which was actually just corrective eyewear.
Hmm.
But it's just like,
Yeah.
and I don't know, like, if I should say this, but not to disenfranchise any men viewers, but often I feel like, it's these men in their 40s for some reason just don't believe women. And that's sort of playing out on the big screen right now, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. It's in the medical world a
bringing
lot.
yeah, bringing it back to personal
Hmm.
stuff. I was married, and I had a drinking problem. I was an alcoholic.
Mm.
And my husband at the time, who's now my ex-husband, um, no, you don't. You just need to learn how to drink properly.
Learn how to drink properly.
Yes, like don't have 5 gin and tonics in an hour. But I was an alcoholic. There was just
That
no
does
way
sound
I was gonna know how to do that.
But it does sound like you were an alcoholic. 5 gin and tonics, that's quite a bit.
Yeah, I knew I was an alcoholic when I was in high school, and
Oh,
I just did not know how to get help.
mm-hmm.
And I think I was really self-medicating,
Yeah,
for these different.
yes. I know a couple of people who went from drinking to getting diagnosed, and then because they got appropriate help, able to stop drinking because they didn't want to drink, they just couldn't cope with life the way it was.
Yeah.
And they're frequently then functioning alcoholics because several of them I know were functioning well at work,
Hmm.
but weren't functioning at home at all because simply they didn't know what was wrong with them. They just knew that they weren't fitting in.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I knew I was an alcoholic. Like in high
Hmm.
school, I remember sitting in my classroom thinking about the weekend keg party I was going to and going, oh shit, this is not right.
Mm,
And, but there's a saying in 12-step programs that's, alcohol saved us until it stopped working. And I really believe that,
that
for
makes
me,
sense.
it was all I had,
Hmm.
until the time when I was able to say, I can't,
Yeah.
just spiritually bankrupt and just could not.
Hmm.
And, it happened because my ex said he wasn't sure if he wanted this relationship anymore, but didn't want to support me getting sober. Which is, it was the best thing that happened to me, is what I'm trying to say. I didn't know it at the time, but I can look back now and say, thank you, you
Yeah.
know?
The silver lining
So,
afterwards. Yep.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's been a journey, yeah, it really has,
Hmm.
and especially then getting sober and then going into menopause shortly after. Yeah,
Mm.
it was interesting, but hey, I did it. I learned how to advocate to myself. If there's one thing that I um, would love to tell, women and people in general, just
Yeah.
believe, believe, believe your gut, right?
Yeah.
Believe that inner knowing,
Hmm.
and don't don't let the
Yeah.
world tell you differently. You know,
Yeah.
um, yeah.
Yep. The inner knowing is definitely a thing because most of us really are very in tune with ourselves despite not being aware of it. Because that's the thing, we
Hmm.
frequently don't notice what our body is telling us, but our whole
Hmm.
body is tuned into giving us the signals to make sure.
Hmm.
But many of us have been taught not to listen to the signals. And then
Hmm.
tuning into those signals again is then quite the journey to
Hmm.
finding more peace in life. So,
Yeah.
if I understand your timeline right, is you first stopped drinking, then menopause hit, and then you realized your neuro-spiciness, or is there a different order?
No, no, that was pretty much it. I got sober when I was 42. And then, uh, you know, experiencing, uh, perimenopause and just,
Yeah,
but also getting sober. So, like, my body's getting off of alcohol
mm,
consumption. And, you know, I really probably should have gone into psych ward there for a while, but I didn't. And, like I said, when my husband, ex-husband decided he wanted to leave, I went and saw the psychiatrist, and he
yeah,
actually, even though he disregarded my um, my feelings that I was
Hmm.
possibly on the spectrum, he did help me get sober. He pointed me in the direction of a 12-step program, and that saved my life.
Yeah.
So, like one of those things. And then menopause hit, and, I was single-handedly raising 2 kids.
Yeah.
So I
That's rough
really
as
didn't
well.
have time to stop and think
Mm.
about,
Yeah.
what is this? And it wasn't actually, now that I'm thinking back now, until they had both grown up and left, that I was like, able to spend more time with me,
Mm.
you know,
Yeah.
and understand that, oh, and like I said, for better or worse, Instagram really can be a great source of information if you know how to look for it,
Yeah.
and, make sure you check what you're
Hmm.
reading before you take anything,
Yeah. Yeah. I've some really good information on there, but also totally rubbish. So it's always
Yeah,
checking. But yeah, always. Yeah. It's a very good source.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and then, which, it's funny because, I've been in retail my whole life,
Hmm.
generally as like a cashier. And, I love that because I love the meeting of different people, which I
Yeah.
think, my ADHD brain is going, yes.
Yeah.
Then my autistic side is saying, too many people, too much socialization. So even though I really, really enjoyed it, this year I finally broke,
Mm.
away and
Yeah.
left. And I have to say, and I'm really pursuing this life coaching. I have to say, I've never been felt better mentally,
Mm.
but not trying to fit into that mold. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
that's my point. Is like,
Hmm.
we're always trying to fit ourselves into what our job expects, what our family expects, what our husband, and it's exhausting.
Yes,
And
definitely.
I
Yeah.
finally gave up. And, that's another thing I would tell people. It's like, it's, it's worth it, right?
Hmm.
Worth it trying to at
Yeah.
least make that change.
Yes. Yeah, it definitely is. The moment you realize, you also know you can do something. Until you realize there's nothing really, then you're kind of stuck in it. But the
Yeah.
moment you get the first realization, you can start taking steps, and you might figure out more. It might just be that. But for
Hmm.
most of us, there's different things going on in life, and getting some support, talking it through with someone, and like for addiction, the 12-step program, I've heard so much good about that from the people that have
Mm.
joined it. And yeah, it's quite an interesting way of how they handle addiction as well. Because
Hmm.
I only read about it like 2 years ago because a friend of mine was
Hmm.
going through it, and I had no idea. But I knew it was there. I knew the AA was a thing, but I didn't know what they
Hmm.
did or anything. And since then, having gone through the book, reading those 12 steps, I just said that's a really interesting way of doing it. So I found it really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not for everyone.
No.
Like, people are constantly pointing out our low success rate, but so far we don't have
Hmm.
anything else. Some people get sober through their church and through faith, and
Yeah.
for me though, it, the rooms, it had everything I needed. It had
Hmm.
I felt a completely understood and accepted, you
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
and um you know and then there's also spiritual aspect to it that you can choose or not choose to follow, you know? And so that really helped, that area of my life
Yes.
grow. And the people and the friends I've met in there, are just
Yeah.
amazing people. It's kind of funny. I'll just share this little thing, you'll be sitting with a group of people and you're looking at them and they're telling their story and you're going, no way did you ever do that, because they all were, we're all like cleaned up and looking pretty and, nice and shiny. And it's just like, really?
Yeah.
And a lot of times when we talk about our stories, we talk about, how we feel and how we felt and, the things we're working through. And
Yeah.
you really start to understand we are all the same.
Yeah.
Like we all have these,
Yeah.
desires and dreams and
Mm-hmm.
fears and all this.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, indeed. We all have wants and fears and all that in life. I don't think I've ever met anyone who doesn't have wants and fears and dreams.
hmm
And frequently it's
hmm
also this is what I dream about, but I'm also terrified of trying to create it, because that's one of those things as
hmm
well.
yeah, and just a little plug for life coaching. I mean, that's where it really, I've done therapy and I actually am looking around again to do therapy. It's a
Hmm.
different perspective. Like coaching is about creating possibilities,
Hmm.
where therapy is kind of more about, what happened and
Yeah.
how you can reframe it. So coaching does, I think, go a little bit into reframing.
Hmm.
But one of the most valuable things, because I've coached two women recently who are going through like very similar circumstances, because they're like one's in California and kind of well to do, and the other one lives in West Virginia and is kind of struggling financially. But I think the thing that they found most useful
Hmm.
was that, I held the space for them.
Yes.
I listened.
Hmm.
I really heard them.
Hmm.
They felt heard and seen.
Yes.
And, I could see after both conversations, you could visibly see them just like,
Hmm.
like let some of that go, you
Yeah.
know? And yeah, I just think it's such a wonderful experience to have, you
Yeah.
know. Um, I wish it was more like, therapy in the way that, we could, like, I just think everybody should have it, right?
Hmm.
Like, everyone deserves a life coach.
Yes. Yeah. What the way I see the difference is that therapy is about the past and how to process the past, while
hmm
coaching is about the present and the future and what can you do to improve, grow, or just create the future that you want to have, which is a
hmm
different level, but it's yeah.
Yeah.
I like looking at the future and seeing what we can create. It's nice.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree 100%, and, when you were saying that, what my thought was, therapy is more about the problem,
Yeah.
where coaching is about the solution.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with going into like that stop, because
Hmm.
I had to do that, like to
Yeah.
heal it. But I'm more attuned to, and honestly, right now, the therapy that I'm looking for is more of tools to
Hmm.
help me deal with ADHD. So
Yeah.
it's
That
kind
makes
of a
sense.
different thing.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a totally different thing. Yeah. So Do you have any words of wisdom that you would like to share with those who are watching?
Go for it.
Cool. I like that one. That's a good one.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I spent a lifetime, and not knowing the things that I know now, right?
Hmm.
But just go for it. Life is an experience.
That's it. Yep. And we better experience as much as possible of it.
Yeah, exactly, because and one of the things you understand when you get older, which I wish I could transmute to everyone who's younger, is that at the end of the day, when you're thinking about your life, what you are going to remember is the experiences, the
Hmm.
connection,
Yeah.
and all the other the um yeah, all the other stuff is just stuff, and it
Hmm.
really doesn't matter, you
Yeah.
know. The other thing I just wanted to also share, I got this from somebody else who said, success is the ability to be fully self-expressed, authentically
Hmm.
self-expressed. And I love that definition of success.
That is a good one. I like it.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty cool. So we are nearing the time that we had allotted to recording this. So what I want to ask you is when people want to contact you, is there a way that they can do that?
yes. So I'm on social media. It's Rebecca Dumais, which is I don't know, should I spell that out? Because um, Rebecca, and the last name is Dumais, capital Dumais. And also my email address, which is Rebecca, my middle initial E, and last name Dumais at gmail.com.
Cool.
Those are probably, either DM me or, shoot me an email. Um,
Right.
my vision is just to serve.
Cool. Well, I will of course share the details of your social media and your email address in the description of the video.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, always do that. And then I want to tell you that I really enjoyed our conversation. I learned a bit more about you, which was really cool. And
Mm,
I also want to thank you for joining me today. It was really nice to have you
mm.
today.
Thank you for asking me.
You're very
I
welcome.
I really appreciate who you are and how you show
Thank
up
you.
in the world.
Oh, thank you. That's so kind. All right. That's all for today, everybody. And we'll see you another time. Thank you for watching.